So, as I've been going through and responding to your media critiques, and I've taken a considerable amount of time to read each one and to think about my responses and to engage your ideas, I've realized that there's one lecture that I was going to move out of the course that I feel is very important to actually move back into the course. And this is a lecture that actually talks about some of the fundamental tenets of ethnocentrism and pluralism. Because as the book writes this information, it in a sense makes an argument for this great pluralistic society, this great multicultural society, and that we should have this goal of this perfect equality across all peoples and across all cultures, without really engaging some of the more troubling issues of how that could happen, with the exception of only looking at it from kind of the influence of the most powerful cultures on the less powerful cultures. So I want to talk a little bit more about some other ideas that can, in a sense, problematize some of the perspectives you may be getting from the text. So, first we'll talk about this notion of ethnocentrism as a monologism. So, an ethnocentrism is the inability to believe that other cultures offer viable alternatives for organizing reality, in the sense of saying that your culture is the center and everything else is kind of off from that center. And to say one's own group is central and all others are scaled and rated in reference to it. So in this sense, if you can think about things like religion, most of you have probably been active church members, and possibly your church has brought in people from other religious perspectives or has talked about other religious perspectives. But those other religious perspectives will be put into discussion or contrast to your centered religion. So our religion believes in this, they believe in this other thing. Our religion believes in this, our religion does this, this religion does these other things. So that your religion is the central religion and everything else is scaled in reference to or rated in reference to your religion. That's how ethnocentrism works also culturally, in the sense of, or interculturally, in the sense of one culture saying, well, this is what we do, and then seeing everything else in relationship to that, so that that becomes the central point of comparison. There's a strong in-group and out-group mentality. You're either with us or against us. You're part of what we are, or you're an outside other. You are part of our great society, or you're part of the third world. Whatever the case might be, there's this strong in-group, out-group mentality with regards to ethnocentrism. You talk with the people in your in-group, and you don't make any references to any particular aspects of you. You are just you, and other members of your group are just who they are, but people who are not members of your group are identified by the distinct differences from your group. So if it's a racial category, it's you don't say, you'll say John or Jill or Hiram or Lynn or whoever, and then the people that are outside of your group, you'll say, the American or the white guy or the black guy or the Muslim guy, right? So that they will be identified. You won't say the Christian guy to the person inside your church group, right? Because you just see that as the natural, normal existence of your group. But people that differ from that, they will be identified by that difference. Now, the issue with ethnocentrism as a monologism, is, in a sense, a singular thought is that it can become authoritative in the sense that it can become something that can control others and that can apply force to others, right? It can silence others. It can do many things to basically establish one position of power and have that power be enforced on others. So this is where people often have problems, right? Real significant problems with ethnocentrism is when it does become this authoritative force. Now, the way you can think of the difference, right, is that in some cultures, they have very strong ethnic and religious views. And if it's just a culture that has these views and we look at it and we say, oh, look at that quaint culture with their quaint uh, views and beliefs. And maybe we'll even buy some of their iconography because we'll say, oh, look, it's this little Buddha guy. I want a Buddha guy in my house. Whatever the case is, if they don't really have the power to enforce their will on others, we see them as quaint. However, when the power establishes to the point where they actually can force their will on others, it becomes a problem. So for a lot of the world, right, America and America, in a sense, enforcing Christian values on other parts of the world becomes a problem. When you had uh, the Inquisition and you had the Catholic Church going around the world enforcing its will on other peoples, and we talked a little bit about that with the Spanish coming in and enforcing their will on the Native Americans, right? That becomes then seen as a problem. When we see groups like ISIS and fundamentalist Islamic groups forcing their will on others, we see it as a problem. So it's ethnocentrism. Often we don't necessarily even see it as an issue. We see it as quaint until somebody actually has the power to make it authoritative. So we want to be able to understand that, right? Because a lot of times you'll see people go, oh, no, it's really important for groups to maintain their culture and maintain their heritage and maintain their beliefs until, in fact, they have the power to be able to then instill those beliefs on somebody else. So we always have that fine line of walking within respecting cultures and respecting respecting the maintenance of their cultural beliefs until that actually has the power to then affect other groups. Okay, so then we'll move on in the next presentation and talk a little bit about another perspective.